Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. You are watching the Paris Fintech Forum Communities video interview series. I'm Elliott Gotkine, and today I'm joined by the Deputy CEO of BPI France, Arnaud Caudoux. Great to have you with us.
Hello, Elliott. Great to be here. Very happy to be here.
Okay, so before we get cracking, we're going to learn what's new with BPI France. So anyone who's been watching these interviews, Arnaud, for the past few years will know that BPI France is a public investment bank with a remit to support entrepreneurs. I think you also present yourself as something of a fintech yourselves. Why is that?
Basically, because we are a small bank. If you look at other French banks, which are big animals, we are more the mice in the field. So as a small bank, very dedicated to French entrepreneurs, we have a very focused area, and we think to do that right, we have to be as techy as possible. So we have a great network, great people. And we want to bring the best service to our clients, to entrepreneurs. To do that, we need a lot of technology. So we try to merge a fintech with a network bank, basically, and we have to do it.
And how have things been of late for the bank? How's business?
So far, so good. Kind of strangely, if you look back at the two past years, there was the interest rates, a lot of actuality, not always great in Europe. Despite from that, we still have a great activity, great returns on the investment side, very low cost of risk on the banking lending side, good activity levels both on the investment side and on the lending side. You could say that the tech ecosystem now is lending. It's been two rather rough years, not crises, but rough years in terms of adjusting valuations, and things are kicking back again.
Well, as you say, it's been a couple of rough years. There's also been a cost of living crisis with high inflation, high interest rates, which have only just started coming down in the Eurozone, and generally a tough fundraising environment, I suppose, outside of generative AI startups. So what has been the impact? I mean, have you had to tighten your own belts, reduce your own investments, just, invest at lower valuations? How has this all impacted you?
One thing is we did what most of VC players did. We tended to stick with our own portfolio. So, try to make sure that your companies are doing well in this difficult environment. So, make sure you're able to follow the rounds, which were mostly internal rounds for the past 2 years. So lots of internal rounds, quite many early stage investments too. And then we were lucky enough to have the ability to keep on investing. This is part of what we do. Both as a fund of fund and as a direct investor, we were able to actually scale what we do to support the ecosystem. So very active on the fund of fund side. It takes much longer than it used to raise money for most VC funds. So we are able to increase our share of the money raised by the funds we usually fund, which is very important to ensure that you have this kind of continuum and that funds are able to still invest.
And as I mentioned, the European Central Bank has started cutting interest rates. For normal banks, quote unquote, or conventional banks, let's say, higher interest rates are usually better because they can get a higher interest rate margin. Is there any impact, on you? Is it just too small a cut to kind of make any difference so far?
It is really a small one, more than anticipated by the markets for long. So in a way, long overdue. So no impact for us. Obviously, as we can see, no impacts, generally speaking, on the financial markets. We are not a classic bank in the sense that we don't have deposits. So 100% of what we do is refinanced on the market. We have around 50 billion euros of outstanding loans, which are 100% funded by market bonds. So for us, raising interest rates could have been an issue, but we were managed properly and it went well for us. It's actually quite sound, if you think of it, to go back to positive interest rates. It was quite a fast track to get back to normal, but despite from that, it's still getting back to normal.
And plans for the future for BPI in terms of growth?
In terms of growth, we plan to be relatively stable. We think our share in the market on the lending side is okay. We lend around 10 billion euros per year, long term. We should stick to that. And on the investment side, we will increase, as I mentioned, we have increased the fund of fund activity up to 1.5 billion euros committed per year. It will still be that in 2024 and probably 2025, and we'll see afterwards. Maybe we can decrease a little if things get better, but we are ready to stick to 1.5 billion. And on the direct investment side, regarding VC, we don't do only VC, but if you look at VC, we will be also around 1.5 billion euros per year from seed to very late stage.
All right, so we've heard what's new at BPI France. Let's now get to know Arnaud a little bit better. So Arnaud, unless I'm mistaken, you've been at BPI France now for almost 20 years, working with so many entrepreneurs. Do you never get the urge to kind of branch out on your own and create your own startup?
Obviously, yes. I guess everyone at BPI France has this urge at some point, but it's also thrilling. You live many lives of entrepreneurs being at BPI France, so you get the chance to meet so many of them. It's very inspiring on a day-to-day basis. And in a way, BPI is its own enterprise too. So we have built BPI in the past 10 years. It was created. I've been with BPI for 20 years, as you mentioned, but we really created BPI France 11 years ago now. Before that, it was a smaller company, which we merged with 3 other companies. So it's been an entrepreneurial journey in its own way, for one thing. And second thing, yes, sometimes you get yourself thinking, okay, well, maybe, I should have done, or I should do the same. There have been some temptations, but again, no regret in the sense that living this life of, dealing with entrepreneurs on a day-to-day basis is amazing.
Well, I guess it's never too late. But if you weren't Deputy CEO at BPI France, what do you think you'd be doing?
Great question. Honestly, I don't know. But probably, not banking in the classic way. So probably a fintech entrepreneur or a fintech member, at least.
Okay, because I know that you're quite into music. You play the electric guitar and saxophone, but perhaps not to a level where you think about maybe going on the road and with a band and making that your profession.
Well, no, I've given up on that quite some time ago. It's pretty much the same thing as entrepreneurs. You learn humility when you deal with musicians. You can easily differentiate the real ones from the other ones. It's basically the same for entrepreneurs. So I would never have lived on music, but I would never live without music, but I couldn't make a living out of it for sure. You don't want to hear me playing, actually.
Well, I think if we had time, then it would be wonderful to get a few notes from you, but perhaps next time. So look, a key part of this interview, Arnaud, is to get your take on the future of finance. But first, we're going to take a very quick break, after which we're going to continue our conversation with the Deputy CEO of BPI France, Arnaud Caudoux. Welcome back, and don't forget, if you're not already a full member of our community, everything you need to join can be found at www.parisfintechforum.com. And now, Arnaud, let's talk about the future of finance. So, I'm going to start with the EU's Digital Services Act, which recently came into effect. We're still early days in terms of seeing what the actual impact will be, but what's your expectation and how this will affect BPI, France, and Europe as tech hubs as well?
Yeah, it's very difficult to build a European ecosystem at this stage in many fields, and trying to reach independence from big US firms. I don't think it's you have to separate what is doable and what you wish could have been done. But so the state of things is what it is. So you can try to protect a few things and to make sure that the ecosystem in Europe can grow, on the side of the US for many things. But you don't want to be too ambitious on that. So it's a question of balance. Things are getting better. At least people are conscious and are trying to cope with that in a much more sensible way than it used to be.
And you mentioned that the past couple of years have been a bit tough. I think we've seen it, across the startup space, again, with the exception perhaps of generative AI. But fintech as well, also being heavily impacted. Is the tech or fintech winter now over?
Let's say it's the beginning of spring, probably, but it really depends on what kind of companies you're looking at. If you look at the people who are very strong on the liability side, so all fintechs which would have cash flows or deposits from their customers are doing actually quite well. Raising interest rates have made them profitable, from one night to the other one. So part of the ecosystem is doing pretty well. The other part, the one which is actually on the asset side, much more difficult, obviously, very difficult. So what we see are windows of consolidation between those two. Probably the opportunity to build more universal banks out from digitally native banks or digitally native startups, which can now build a full range of services. So I think there is still some consolidation to come for the ones who are B2C or B2B, but at least dealing with customers directly. Services firms, still very difficult because the banking ecosystem is still a bit shaken. There are not so much possibilities to raise a lot of capital if you're on the services part, I think.
Okay, and I mentioned, one of the big exceptions, of course, generative AI companies, and there seems to be a limitless amount of cash almost being splashed around in that area, including on French companies such as Mistral. Describe to me the impact of this gold rush on startups that you deal with at BPI France, and especially on fintech startups.
Well, you see interesting things. Suddenly you have a lot of companies which have become generative AI companies. So you have to really separate things. There are some companies which are amazing and they are reaching amazing valuations, for sure. For the rest of the ecosystem, there's a lot of embedded AI for this technology has become amazingly available for an amazing number of people. So you can really integrate and benefit from Gen AI in most startups. Doesn't make you a Gen AI company. You just have to use it properly and make sure you take the most out of it. But it doesn't get you to the levels of valuation you see in truly AI firms now. I don't know if these valuations are reasonable, by the way. They are needed because you need a lot of money. It's a very capital-intensive business. We'll see where it gets us. We have great Gen AI French companies, by the way, which is good. So now for the ecosystem and for fintech companies, you have to make the most out of it. Don't expect those to raise your valuations, but they can really raise your efficiency. They should be able to do that. On the services side, software, SaaS side of the business, I think a part of the companies will become obsolete, and we haven't really seen that yet. And this is an area of concern. If you built your platform before AI or without AI, you probably will get to difficult times.
Okay, well, I guess at least even though not all companies are Gen AI companies. I remember back in the days of the dot-com boom, you even had things like mining companies adding .com to their names in order to boost their valuation. So if that starts happening now, when you start getting mining companies rebranding as Gen AI companies, then you'll know that that's the top of the market, I think.
We had
but
a
in
lot
terms
of blockchain companies a few years ago.
Of course. In terms of sticking with artificial intelligence, I mean, how is BPI using AI? And does that make BPI France a trailblazer among French financial institutions, a laggard, or somewhere in the middle?
Trailblazer for sure, even if we stay humble. No, we use it a lot. We were quick to open it to all our employees. We're quick to put the right barriers in terms of, data confidentiality, data protection, but quick to open it to everyone. So all the classic, it's strange to think of it, but all these things which were amazing 16 months ago are now just basic things you can use through Microsoft, etc. So the classic Gen AI stuff of resuming mails and things like that. We have started to really implement a few business use cases on the banking side, which are very interesting, very promising. And we are starting but like many investment companies on the private equity VC side, there's a lot of things to do on the deal flow part of the business for sure. And quite a lot of things to do as we are a very big investment firm. We do around 1,000 deals per year. There's a lot of knowledge sharing things, which we can deal with in a much better way with Gen AI. There's a lot of confidentiality, a lot of data available. You want to make the most out of it. Gen AI helps you to deal with these two aspects of things at the same time.
And of course, in recent years and still today, there's been a lot of talk about, banks going digital and kind of branch closures and the like. And yet at the same time, you have, America's biggest and most successful bank, JP Morgan, planning to add another 500 branches over the next 3 years. I know that you have branches. Again, you're not like a conventional bank, but what role do you see branches playing in the future of finance, whether it's in France or Europe or globally?
In the B2B business for us, we have 50 branches, which are very important to us. And we are actually increasing this number by 1 or 2 per year. And we see that each and every time we open a new branch, it proves to be very efficient. So really for us in the B2B part of banking, it's about merging digital and physical branches and network. That's really where the value is. For retail, classic retail banking, it's a different story. Obviously, in France, there were way too many agencies, and people are trying to close them, which is difficult. But for us, in our business, the personal relation with the CEO, with the CFO, absolutely necessary if you want to be a long-term lender. You definitely need that.
And another trend that we're seeing in finance is the desire to make it more sustainable in terms of the environment, its impact on society and the like. How much does that factor into who you choose to support? And is that in line with the rest of the industry?
Probably not completely in line. We really think our mission is to help everyone to go successfully through the energy transition. So we take a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of money to make sure that nobody stays on the side of the road, if you will. We have consulting partners with whom we do around 4,000 diagnoses per year. So we go for 1 week or 2 weeks on the ground with the CEO, with the people in operations to try to understand what's at stake, what could be done. And once we have done that, well, first it's good because people are much more aware of what's happening or of what could be happening, much more aware of what they should be doing, and we are able to finance should they be willing to invest to transition. So that's really the core of our mission. Doing that, we can say that we will have a great trajectory in terms of CO2 reduction in the future, but in the short term, we're okay with the fact that we may load on the balance sheet loans to companies which are still definitely not green, as long as they commit to get greener.
Right. And you've got branches in New York, Dubai, Singapore, and many other innovation hubs. How do these territories in which you operate, how do they compare in terms of their support for innovation and their ability to foster innovation?
These branches are actually very small, and their main aim is to help French entrepreneurs land and get connected to the ecosystems in these places. So we don't do business, properly speaking, in these places. Only we bring French companies there. But it's also a great way for us to get to know how these ecosystems evolve. Obviously, in the fintech area, being in Singapore, being in Dubai, being in Frisco or New York is very interesting. And obviously, we leverage that to help the companies better understand, the French companies better understand these trends. And it's also very useful for us as an investor and as a bank.
Right. Okay. So look, Arnaud, it's time now for our round of rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
I hope so.
Okay. So just one word answers is all I'm after. I'm going to set 90 seconds, 1 minute 30 on my timer. And when we run out of time, we will finish. So away we go. What fintech segment, in your opinion, has the biggest potential over the next 5 years?
Blockchain and crypto, DeFi.
What is the biggest pain point in your everyday financial life that you'd like to see resolved?
Process complexity.
Are bank bosses ready for the AI revolution?
Definitely not all of them.
Are customers ready?
A small part of them, as far as I'm concerned. Too small.
Have regulations in the US and EU kept pace with all the new possibilities and behaviors we're seeing in the financial industry?
Sorry, I didn't get the question.
Have regulators in the EU and the United States, have they kept pace with all the new developments, all the new possibilities we're seeing now in the financial industry?
Definitely not.
Have you personally ever invested in crypto?
Oh, yes.
Are physical points of sales part of the future of finance?
As far as B2B finance is concerned, yes.
Are bank branches part of the future of finance?
Still, yes.
On a scale of 1 to 10, where 10 is the most likely and 1 is the least likely, in the next 10 years, how likely is it that one of the neobanks will be as profitable as a top-tier legacy bank?
6.
That central bank digital currencies become a mainstream reality in the United States or Europe?
Yes, it will.
Okay. And on that confident note about CBDCs, I'm afraid we're out of time for a round of rapid fire questions and for our conversation. So I really just want to thank you, BPI France Deputy CEO Arnaud Caudoux, for joining me today.
Thank you, Elliott. Thank you for having me. Thank you, everyone.
And for everyone watching, we will be back again next time with another big name from the world of finance and technology. We do hope you'll be able to join us again then. In the meantime, don't forget to subscribe to the Paris Fintech Forum YouTube channel and to follow us on X, formerly Twitter, at Paris Fin Forum. That's all for now. See you next time. Bye-bye.